Welcome to the Imileko show, where real stories ignite imagination, culture meets creativity, and every voice has a place. Get ready to experience life powerfully told.
I want to pose it to the UPND. If you invited stakeholders to submit to this proposition and they all refused, if you brought this issue to the MPs by way of a committee and they all refused to go ahead with this law, who are you trying to make this law for? I have never seen a people that will want to make a law for themselves, because we make laws for the people. And the people that appeared before you have all unanimously said you cannot go ahead in this time and age with all its vagueness and vulgarities to proceed to enact such a law. So who are they doing this for? And why towards the elections? Because they are the very people that objected this law in 2021.
You are going to jail. You know, even as we interact, you may try and justify UPND. Unless you are pretending, you are going to jail, my brother. Not even about this interview. Just your personal life and what you do on TikTok, what you do on WhatsApp, what you do on Facebook and so on, Chimweka, you are headed to Chimboka.
But that's on the premise if
one of the first laws we are going to reverse is the media, is the cyber security bill. We shall reverse it. Kuna muleke kusebenzisa internet, Facebook. This is a modern technology which we want to use, right, to deliver medicines in hospitals and consultancy. A doctor is seated in Lusaka, is consulting to help a patient in Kaputa through social media, through the electronic media. How can we shut and restrict such beautiful service?
In 2021, millions of Zambians voted for change, for transparency, accountability, and the full restoration of freedoms. President Hakainde Hichilema stood tall on a platform of democratic renewal, but now the internet is buzzing with one question. What has happened, Mr. President?
Now the only mouthpiece that Zambians have is the social media. You want to shut it down. Stop it, please. We have known for a long time that you are dictators, you are autocrats, but you have now crossed the line. Leave, do away with this cyber security thing. There are enough laws to deal with criminals. Just enforce those laws fairly. This cannot be used as an excuse. Leave citizens to talk to each other. Don't cut them. Leave it. Please leave it. We want to find a viable man after 12th of August. Let me remind Zambians that whatever you are going through, very soon, shall pick up on. The power is in your hands to end this. But for now, protect yourselves, protect your neighbor from this tax. Non-tax, masquerading as leaders in the name of peer. Small now. Not everybody here is happy about what is happening. So public, protect each other, protect your neighbor.
The Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Act was recently signed into law, quietly with minimal public consultation, and here is what it does. It criminalizes false information online, grants authorities power to intercept and monitor digital communications, allows search and seizure of data without clear judicial oversight, introduces harsh penalties for what can be interpreted as dissent or criticism. Supporters call it a step towards digital safety.
Do you know where those laws are? It is because our colleagues in the United States of America have laws on cyberbullying. Many countries which are developing countries like Zambia merely copying what is successful in their countries.
Critics say it's the beginning of digital authoritarianism.
One would have thought that they were going to repeal the other one altogether because they promised to do so. But instead they have enhanced it. And in enhancing it, you are able to see through what the intentions really are. Because not only does this act fall under the auspices of the office of a minister, it is now under the office of the president. The president is the one who decides how this act is going to be carried out.
Civil society organizations, human rights advocates, and legal experts are sounding the alarm.
Media stakeholders are also wary of the implications. Media Owners Association of Zambia President Costa Mwansa argues that the cybersecurity bill could curtail freedoms in a democratic society.
Among our major concerns include infringement on privacy rights, the vague definitions and overreach, the restrictions on freedom of expression. Now, the provisions that mandate reporting and monitoring of cyber incidents, we feel can be weaponized against dissent and free expression.
Civil society organizations have also voiced their opposition.
The main question is, why do we need these laws now? Of course, we understand that there are issues to do with cyber security, right? But then again, we are saying that there are other issues that are pressing right now, right? To which the government should put more focus and attention, right? For example, the economy is not doing well, right?
The case of the cyber bill, for instance, I'll read what the president wrote on social media. That was just before he was elected. And so I quote from Hakainde Hichilema. He said, the cyber security and crime bill is not about preventing cyberbullying. It is about clamping freedom of expression and spying on citizens. People who the government despises will be targeted and arrested. The PF are leading us down a very dark road. And hashtag cyberbill.
We are living in interesting times. You know, speaking from a communication point of view, I don't know how our leaders now, when they watch themselves in the clips that we are playing, how they feel, what goes on in their minds, their conscience. Do they feel justified? Do they feel happy? In other countries, this calls for a resignation that I have let down the confidence of the Zambian people that they deposited in me. I have departed from what I promised. I do not think I have the moral right to continue in this office. It calls for that. The president in his clip there, he said, we know you are dictators, but you have crossed the line. You have gone too far. Is he telling us now, he's telling the Zambian people, that the Zambian people knew that President Hichilema has always been a dictator. Now he has crossed. I don't know how many lines he has crossed. He has crossed the line of breaching his own word. He has crossed the line of saying, I will do this and it doesn't do. I will repeal this and it doesn't repeal. He has crossed his own line of saying, this sacred constitution is not a preserve of Mr. Lung, one man, to sit and decide which constituents must be delimited. The president has really shredded his own words and he's torn them to pieces one by one. I'm not sure if you can recognize one single word from the mouth of the president. You know, and there is our minister in opposition. He says, I want to tell the nation that the ZNBC that the PF uses is a conduit for telling lies. The only space that is left for Zambian people is the cyberspace. How can you justify that the men who spoke with so much conviction today can push so viciously and say it is a good law. We have just modernized it. We are just making it look, unfit international standards. How can a law that was so bad today, you call it, you are refining it to meet international standards? Is there someone you are lying to? Is there someone you think is so dumb that they can't read through and see through the ploy of being untruthful? Worse off as a government. It is excusable if you are untruthful as an opposition leader, not when you carry a flag. No. That's the Bible. That's inexcusable. You can't do that to the Zambian people. You can't.
Even the United States ambassador to Zambia issued a statement warning Americans of these new digital restrictions in the country.
The U.S. Embassy in Zambia has warned its citizens to be wary of a new intrusive cybersecurity law introduced in a southern African country. The United States of America has issued a warning, over Zambia's cybersecurity. Now, there's a new law in Zambia. The U.S. Embassy in Zambia has warned its citizens to be wary of a new intrusive cybersecurity law introduced in a southern African country. What is this law? We're going to find out now. Well, the embassy issued an alert telling Americans in and planning to visit Zambia to be very careful. Americans need to be cautious of a new law that requires the interception and surveillance of all electronic communication in the country. This obviously includes calls, emails, text, stream content in the country. Apparently, the Zambians want to do this to make sure there's no transmission of critical information. And the US Embassy says this is a term the law defines so broadly that it could apply to almost any activity they want. Okay, so basically what they're saying is Americans be very careful, don't go to Zambia, because in Zambia they have a brand new law. What is the law all about? The law is about checking your devices. They cannot check your device.
So clause 10 of the Cyber Crimes Bill, under clause 10(3)(b, is empowering a law enforcement officer. What this law is saying, a law enforcement officer, where they have reasonable suspicion, they can record you without getting a court order or without getting an order from court.
If they suspect you of transferring critical information, what is critical information? There's no definition of that. They can search your device. They can go through your stuff. They can intercept your calls. They can go through your text. They can check your emails, whether they do it directly or through a service provider. They have the rights to do everything and anything. So, doesn't this sound to you like North Korea or Eritrea or something? I'm just saying. Let's continue. So, following this alert from the US Embassy, the Zambian government reacted. They have to react to defend themselves. What did they say?
Do we give an impression in our discourse as stakeholders, and we have many stakeholders in this regard, that Zambia, when you fly in and land as a tourist tomorrow, then it means someone will be tapping into your phone, your emails, your laptop, and all these things because of these cybersecurity laws. And I thought it's very important to address that matter, not only for the people of Zambia, but for any person entering our country, for the perspective also of our international relations with the world. And I would like to say that this conception that perhaps the cyber laws are meant to intrude, to go into your personal details in a willy-nilly fashion is not correct. It needs to be put in its correct context.
That's what they say, okay? But practically, if they ask you for the phone, are you going to say no? If you say no, do you know what's going to happen to you in a country that Trump will call a shithole country? I see you getting triggered. I understand it's your home, but you don't think it's shithole? Just a little bit, just a tiny bit. Let's continue. We'll discuss that later.
We want to tell the nation that HH has committed that one of the first acts he will do, given the opportunity to be president of this country, is to repeal the cybersecurity bill. That is one of the first things ever he will do. He has committed to that. Look, the freedoms of the people of this country have been invaded.
In 2021, President HH repeatedly emphasized the freedom of the press, open internet, and government accountability. These were not just offhand promises, they were foundational campaign pillars.
Now the only mouthpiece that Zambians have is the social media. You want to shut it down. Stop it, please. We've known for a long time that you are dictators. You're autocrats, but you have now crossed the line. Leave, do away with this cybersecurity bill. There are enough laws to deal with criminals. Just enforce those laws fairly. This cannot be used as an excuse. Leave citizens to talk to each other. Don't cut them. Leave it. Please leave it. You want to find a Bible maybe after 12th of August. Let me remind Zambians that whatever you are going through, very soon, shall pick up.
Today, many Zambians feel betrayed. Was this law rushed under the radar for political control? Or is it a misunderstood tool for national security?
And then now, we have the government taking the same law.
But initially, as civil society, we have said it must be subjected to elaborate consultations so that it can actually conform to what citizens actually want in Zambia.
I was part of the Cybersecurity and Crimes Bill that this new act repeals. And I would like us to look at it from the context of what is it that the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act that this has replaced was trying to address. With the use of the internet, there came issues to do with cyberbullying, matters that were not captured when it came to the penal code as well as other laws in Zambia. And you will notice that at the time the Cybersecurity and Cybercrimes Act was enacted, the UPND were up in arms, condemning it and telling people that this is coming for your rights. You will no longer have privacy, you will no longer have the freedom of expression. And President Hakainde Hichilema is on record. The videos are there, his tweets are there, his Facebook postings are there, where he is condemning the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act. And in one of his recordings, he dared even say, the first thing that we're going to deal with is get rid of the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act, because in his estimation it tended to take away the privacy of people. But if you look at the implementation of the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act under the PF, that was under the auspices of the Office of the Minister, who could draft regulations to determine how best the act can be carried out. And this much condemned act that was supposed to be repealed, if they wanted to repeal it, you will notice that under it there was nothing in it that by experience interfered with persons' freedom of expression or indeed the privacy. It just went to forestall the idea of you getting onto onto the internet for purposes of bullying.
The conversation is shifting fast, and citizens are organizing online campaigns, forums, church leaders, political players, all asking the same thing: why the secrecy?
The Honorable Member for Ghana.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for this opportunity. I feel very sad to be able or to be in this position where I have to contribute to this discussion. I take note, of the levels of inconsistency and hypocrisy at the hands of in regards to issues like what we're discussing today. Madam Speaker, you remember when this law, the cyber crimes law, was enacted in 2021, of the stakeholders that rejected this law, the youth sang the loudest. Madam Speaker, perhaps for the sake of those who may follow this conversation, it will be imperative that we take people through. There exists a law called the Cyber Crimes Law. Today deals with our participation in the cyberspace. This law deals with those who abuses social media. It also protects those who uses social media. So the law exists currently. What they sought to do or is seeking to do is to separate this law into two pieces of legislation. And right now, we are discussing the Cyber Crimes Law. Madam Speaker, enacting a law or amending a law as a process where government would come to you, that you constitute a committee or appoint a committee already existing, that they interrogate the proposed amendment. And you did that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, your committee sat with stakeholders. Interestingly, your committee in the report laments the time frame given for them to scrutinize this proposed amendment, because they were only given 2 days. Now,
to be fair, cybercrime is a real and growing threat. From scams to digital terrorism, governments worldwide are struggling to keep up. But there is a very thin line between protection and control. And without transparency, any law, even a necessary one, becomes a weapon.
It is inconceivable for people to suggest that the abuses on social media cannot be, policed. There exists a law today, Madam Speaker. I'll give you an example, Madam Speaker, because what they're trying to do is to over-regulate this law. Over-regulate the use of social media. In short, what they are basically trying to do is to make it very difficult for the Zambians to participate in social media. That is basically what they are trying to do. And I'll give you examples, Madam Speaker. Because, Madam Speaker, you wish to know, your committee has clearly stated, and I'm very shocked that the minister would say stakeholders supported this amendment. Madam Speaker, your report on page 6, the committee's observations and recommendations says the committee notes that witnesses who appeared before it did not support the bill. And the committee further goes on to say we cannot support this amendment, particularly that it does not meet the threshold, according to what is dictated in the Constitution in Article 18.8. Because any crime, Madam Speaker, must be defined. And that is why this particular proposition does not meet the threshold. It is not clearly defined. As an argument point, this proposition has not stated whether these crimes being categorized here are either misdemeanors or they are heinous crimes. So how can you impose or create a law that is not even defined? And that is what misdemeanors, sir, there is a misdemeanor and a felony. A misdemeanor is a small crime. A felony are big crimes. Because what is being proposed, Madam Speaker, the maximum sentence is 25 years. How can you impose 25 years on a law that you have not even clearly defined? And that is why your committee, Madam Speaker, stated they cannot support, a vague proposition. Because, Madam Speaker,
freedom of expression is not just a slogan. It is a right. And any democracy, no matter how young or old, must protect the voice of its people. This is not just about the internet. It's about the future of our country, Zambia.
A person from intentionally or without lawful authority transmit electronic conversations to deceive or mislead people. The word is mislead people. Here what they are saying is that you transmit certain information on a phone that misleads people. The big question today is, who is going to be determinant of what is true and what is misleading? Because the Zambian people today will tell you, Madam Speaker, that they are known to be liars or deceivers. Let me remove liars. To be deceivers.
So how can the people who are held to be deceivers be the determinant of what is going to be true? Madam Speaker, further in Article 21, it also prohibits a person to initiate the transmission of multiple messages. Madam Speaker, multiple messages means I transmit particular information to people who are sitting here. That is what this law is trying to prohibit, Madam Speaker. How can you be outrageous in your proposition, Mr. Minister? Madam Speaker, there is a lot of repressiveness in the clauses that are being proposed here. And I've just given you an example of article, or rather clause number 21. Madam Speaker, when you suggest that whatever is being transmitted should be subject to whether it is true or not true, whether it is misleading or not misleading, and you want to punish people by a measure that cannot even be clearly defined, let me remind the House here, the law does entitle people to opinions. And opinions are not facts. Opinions are subjective. They give rise to a debate. But in this proposition in 21, you are proposing, the law is proposing that anyone who's going to give an opinion that will be considered to be misleading, they will criminalize them. How, Madam Speaker? What sort of a country are we building? Okay? Let me end because of time, Madam Speaker, because I would have spoken to a number of things. Why do we enact laws? We enact laws so that we can cure what is, infringing on people's rights and freedoms. There is already an existing law, okay, Madam Speaker, which is the Cyber Crimes and Cyber Security Law. I want to pose it to the UPND. If you invited stakeholders to submit to this proposition and they all refused, if you brought this issue to the MPs by way of the committee and they all refused to go ahead with this law, who are you trying to make this law for? I have never seen a people that will want to make a law for themselves, because we make laws for the people. And the people that appeared before you have all unanimously said you cannot go ahead in this time and age with all its vagueness and vulgarities to proceed to enact such a law. So who are they doing this for? And why towards the elections? Because they are the very people that objected this law in 2021. Who are you enacting this law for?
Chimweka, if you are one of those who don't use social media and are just coming from the blues to ask me questions, I would have excused you. But if there is a person who's at risk of going to jail for life, you are one of them. That I can tell you. You are going to jail. Even as we interact, you may try and justify UPND. Unless you are pretending, you are going to jail, my brother. Not even about this interview. Just your personal life and what you do on TikTok, what you do on WhatsApp, what you do on Facebook and so on, Chimweka, you are headed to Chimbokaira.
But then that's on the premise if I break the law, isn't it?
You are breaking it without even knowing. Even the questions you're asking me about to break the law, according to cybercrime under UPND. Because you can't ask me those questions. What we are supposed to be doing right now is to praise Misaka Inde Cinema. I clap 3 times, you also clap 3 times. Misaka Inde is a brilliant man, we also clap. What we are discussing right now is a criminal offense under the new cybercrime law. I'm telling you now. So this is not about Nakachinda and trying to put me on the spot that you were guilty and all that. It's nonsensical now. There is a law that is draconian. There's a law here that inhibits you as a journalist from undertaking your job professionally, from asking critical questions of the opposition, including those who are in government. Otherwise, you risk going to jail. Give it another 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, you are going to jail yourself. I'm telling you the truth. That's why I was celebrating Ken Dumbo, who had a mimic on his social media. When they ask him, what do you say about cyber crime law? He says, Virichabe Buino. What's the performance of Eka Inde Cinema? Our answer should be, Harichabe Buino. What do you think about the price of fuel? It's very cheap. What's the price of minimum? Very cheap. That's what we're supposed to be answering right now if we avoid going to jail. Otherwise, that law is meant to actually put on our mouths a cloth so that we don't answer. Otherwise, we're going to jail. But people like myself, we have decided that it will be an honor to go to jail for challenging the wrong of UPND. I want to tell you, Misaka Ndechilema is a dictator. He's a person who should not even live another 1 month, 2 weeks, 1 year in that state house or wherever he is, because he is destroying this country and taking away the freedoms of the Republic of and the citizens of the Republic of Zambia. Even if you try to twist the narrative and suggest that we are in the wrong, the ones who are in the wrong is the UPND and Misaka Ndechilema. The dictator today is Misaka Ndechilema. Don't try and twist this narrative. You are being irresponsible. The country is being taken to the doldrums and to the trenches by Misaka Ndechilema. You can't be trying and create a narrative for the sake of appeasing those in.
What are the fears, your fellows? Well, there are fears that the law could be used against anyone who criticizes the government, especially with the elections coming next year. Now, many Zambians believe that this is just the president trying to set up the parameters so people don't criticize him, because elections is coming. Okay, so let's create a law well before the election, so by the time the election is here, anybody that dares to say something negative against the president, we can scrutinize him. We can walk up to his house, break the door and say you have violated the law, and put him on the ground and check his stuff and all that, and maybe send him to prison for 15 years. Okay, so that's what it sounds like. Some Zambians have expressed concern that the new cybersecurity unit is being set up in the president's office.
What are your thoughts on Zambia's cybersecurity law? Let's talk. Drop a comment, share this video, and let your voice be heard. You are watching the Imileko Show, telling our own stories. Subscribe now for more eye-opening content. Thank you so much for watching.